In this video, let's work on data stores, right? Saving data in between your game. And I'm going to make a general script that's going to save leaderboards, right? So we'll be able to save our leaderboards off. I have this as lesson number 9. You don't have to do these in order. In fact, if you just wanted to do lesson number 9, you'd be fine. I will make a small leaderboard in this lesson. And here we have stone and grass. I'm just going to demonstrate what happens. So we just added a few pieces of stone. We're up to 36. Get a couple pieces of grass, 21. And this is what we're going to do today. If you turn your game off and you come back and play, we want to have those numbers that we just got the last time, right? You want to be able to save your level, your money, stuff like that. If you're doing certain types of games, we're going to cover that today. So we're going to do a data store that saves leader stats, and you'll be able to extend that to other things too. Let's go ahead and get started. I have a fresh base plate right here. There's nothing in my game. Let's start off by making a simple leaderboard, and server script service is a good place to do that. I'm going to hit the plus, and then I'm going to get a script. I have it under frequently used. Just do SCR if you don't. There we go. Script. Let's call it leaderboard. All right. And we want to add this to players as they're entering the game. So I'm going to get a variable for the player's service. So local players equal game get service players. This is the player service right here. It keeps track of players playing your game. So when they enter the game, when they leave the game, when they're in the game, stuff like that. And we're going to use that. So let me make a function. I'm going to say local function, add board, right? And then the player that enters the game is going to get a leaderboard, right? And we'll do local board for the leaderboard itself. I just called that board for simplicity. We're going to make an instance new of a folder. The folder will go on the player. And we'll just say player right there. That's the parent, right? The folder goes on the player. Now, this is the tricky part. The board name must be leader stats, spelled just like that with a lowercase l. And then Roblox is going to know what to do with it. And it's going to show it up in that corner there, up in the right corner. So you have to call it that, right? Now, we could do stone. Let's do like pieces of stone, kind of Minecraft-y, right? And then we'll do instance of new. It's going to be an int value. It's going to save as an integer, right? You're going to have 1, 2, 3 pieces of stone. And we're going to put that on the board. So we'll put the stone on the board and we'll put the board on the player. Now we'll go ahead and get the stone. We have the parent set. Let's get the name. This is what's going to show up in the leaderboard, right? Stone. And then you could set the value if you want, right? We could initialize it if it doesn't have a value, but it's going to initialize to 0 anyway if it's an int value. So how do we put this board on our player? Well, the player service is going to have an event called player added. When someone joins your game, we are going to connect this event to an add board function, make sure there's no extra parentheses, and your player is going to get the board. Let's go ahead and try it real quick. We'll hit the play button, go to view output, check for errors, no errors. There's our leaderboard. It says stone, right? Cool. Make sure that happens. And then you could put some more stuff on here if you want. Let's go ahead. Maybe we'll put like, how about grass? Just copy this. Control C, Control V, and then what else? Like wood, right? Isn't that like Minecraft-y stuff? So this will be the grass one, right? Grass, copy, paste, paste, paste. I'm going to make that capital G because that's what's going to show up on the leaderboard. And then what do we got? Wood. Let's do wood. Wood, copy, paste, paste, and paste. All right, there we go. Wood. Let's go ahead and play real quick. Make sure we don't have any errors. Sweet. So we got 3 things right here. Now the script we're going to write is going to be able to save almost any leaderboard. I'll show you how to make modifications if you have a string value in here, right? Because we're going to search for number values and int values today, and it's going to be really easy to see a string value if you add one. Let's go back to our script, and we are going to need a pickup. Well, 3 actually. Let's do 1 for stone, 1 for grass, and 1 for wood. It won't take that long. Once we get 1 done, we could do more. So I went back to my world here, my place, and then I'm going to hit part. There's my part. I'm going to call this, let's start out with stone, right? Stone. stone. Spell it the same as on the leaderboard. You'll see why in a second. So we have our stone. Color is good. Let's go to material. Plastic, no good. Let's open that up. Hey, maybe hit M for marble. Here it is, marble. That looks like a pretty good stone. Let's add a script to our stone. Hit the plus, hit a script. Let's call this pickup. And we're going to do a general pickup script. I'm not adding this with the collection service. If you want to see how to do that, lesson 5 covers that. All right, we'll just do some basics here. Let's do a local. I want to get my player service for my pickup. So let's do that like we did in the leaderboard. Players, local players equals game get service players. And then we're going to get a reference to our pickup. How about local pickup? What is that? Script.parent. And then we're going to get the pickup name. That's why I wanted it to be the same as on the leader stats. That's how we're going to know what to update on our leaderboard. Leader stats and leaderboard, I'm using that the same, right? So we have our pickup name is actually the pickup dot name. All right, we need an on touched event. So say local function on touch. Somebody touches the stone or maybe something like a zombie or something. We don't want to update their leader stats. They're not going to have one. So I'm going to say other part is going to be what touches our pickup. And that could be a foot or something, right? So we'll say local, let's check to make sure it's a player that's touching our part. So we're going to try and get a player using the player service. We're going to say get player from character, and the other part, if it's a foot or something, the parent is going to be the character, right? And then if that returns a player, then we know we can update the leader stats. If it doesn't, it's going to be nil. So let's go ahead and say if player then, right? So if it was a zombie foot, we're not going to get a player. If it was a ball, we're not going to get a player. It's going to be nil. And then we'll just skip through here. But if it is a player, let's say player is going to have leader stats. Make sure you spell that right. And then we will use the pickup name on the leader stats. That's why that stone has to be spelled right? It's going to update stone. And then we're going to say dot value plus equals 1. Then let's just go ahead and destroy the pickup, right? Because we don't have D bounces on this. So we don't want to give them like 50 points for like 50 touches. All right, so we got to call this, right? When do we call it? Well, our pickup right here, Control C, Control V, is going to fire a touched event anytime something touches it. And then we are going to connect that to on touch, get rid of those 2 extra parentheses that Roblox likes to add, and just have the function name. This should work. Let's try it. We're going to hit play. We're going to have a leaderboard right here, and we should update stone. Also, let's go to view, output, make sure we don't have any errors. Here we go. There's our stone. Boom, we got it, stone, and no errors. Cool. I'm going to close the output window. I'm going to turn off my game. And now what I want to do is make a piece of wood and a piece of grass using that stone. It's going to be easy, right? Because we made this very general. All we have to do, I'm going to hit a Control D, make sure my collisions are off. So I'll just copy and paste, Control D, boom. This one, I need to change this so that it matches the leader stats. I need to change the name, right? So wood, I don't need to change anything in pickup because it's going to get the name, and that's how it's going to know what to put on the leader stats. Let's change the appearance though, right? The wood is going to be brown, get some sort of brown. How about that one? And then material, W, wood, sweet, that's pretty good. And then let's do one for grass, right? Control D, and grass is going to be green. Ooh, and let's change the name. Make sure you spell it the same as on the leader stats, grass. And then that's going to be green, or some sort of green. I have shamrock, right? And then I like the leafy grass. Leafy grass, sweet. So now we have 3 pickups. Let's try it out. We'll hit play, view, output, and see, these are all zeroed out. That's what we're going to do today with our data store. We're going to keep track, right? But now we're not keeping track yet. So we got stone, we got wood, we got grass, and we don't have any errors. Awesome. Turn this off, and I'm going to close my output window. All right, now we can start saving stuff off, right? We have a leaderboard, and we have stuff to put on the leaderboard. Let's go to the Home tab, hit Game Settings, make sure you save your game, right? I just called this Data Store Lessons. Once you save it, hit Save, you'll have to open it again, and then we're going to go to Security. In security, this is what everybody misses, right? In security, we are going to need to enable studio access to API services. Hit this, boom, it's green, save it. Now we could use a data store. I'm going to go down to server script service. I'm going to keep everything in my server script service here and hit the plus, get a regular script, right? I'm going to call this game manager, right? Game MGR. I like to put things that manage game mechanics in the game manager in server script service. I'm consistent that way, so I don't have to fumble around when I look at a game that's like 3 years old. Now, what do we got here? Let's get rid of that print statement. Let's get a few variables. Let's get our players service, right? Keeps track of the players. And we'll say players equals game get service players, and we need our data store service, DSS, equals game get service, and then that's called data store service. And then I'm going to do the data store for the stats, for the leader stats. I'm just going to call this DS for data store. Let's get the data store from the data store service. So DSS, get data store. We get to name it right here. How about stats, right? I'm going to put my stats on there. I think I'm going to make some functions. I'm just going to do the stubs for the functions right now. So we'll say local function. I'm going to need something called init data, and the player will get passed in, right? What else am I going to need? How about local function save leader stats? That's going to be the actual saving. And what else will we need? Oh, we're going to need to be able to detect when the player enters the game, right? So we'll have players dot player added. That's an event that fires when you join the game. We are going to connect that to, how about init data, right? So we could just do this, init data, make sure there's no extra parentheses. We do not need to pass the player in because player added event does that. So the player will be added in, right? So that's pretty good. And then when we leave the game, let's go ahead and update things. So we'll say players, guess what? We have player removing event when someone leaves the game. And then this one, how about we do a save leader stats, right? No extra parentheses. Once again, player removing will know to pass the player into that function. Now, one thing we're going to probably want, just in case something weird happens in our game, let's do a periodic autosave. So let's say local function. Here, I'm gonna just change this so you can see that a little better. Put it in the middle of the screen. Local function. We're gonna get a save loop, right? Save loop, and I'll do a little while true do. It's going to play as long as the server is up, right? We'll do our task.wait. Put a little wait in there. I'm gonna put 5 seconds for the video, but you don't want to do it every 5 seconds because data store calls are taxing to your game, right? So maybe we'll do something like save every 60 seconds. That should work. 30 at the most, right? 60 seconds instead of 5, right? Just so that you know. Remember, we are going to have a save fired off when they're leaving, but just in case, every 60 seconds, let's do a periodic update. All right, how are we going to do that? Let's do a for. And we'll do, should we do I and V in pairs? I and V in pairs. We don't need the in pairs anymore. They changed that. We could just do this. Players get children. Oh, no, let's not do that. Let's do get players from the player service. That's going to get every one of our players. Do. Here, we'll do our save leader stats. And what is our player? Our player is V. So I will be like 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say there's 5 players, right? It'll go up to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is going to be each of those players. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? SimTech Gamer 7 is going to be the only one here in our Roblox studio. Now, to call this, I am just going to spawn this in a thread. How about we do task.spawn. We don't want to tie up our script in case we want to use it for other stuff. And then we'll do our little save loop. Make sure there's no extra parentheses there. We're not going to pass anything in because the save loop is just going to fire. It's going to run the whole time our game is operating. This will be 60 seconds for you guys. Every minute, we're going to save the data for our players in the game. Now let's populate our init data and save data, right? Here's where we're going to initialize our player with the data in the data store. We are going to do local success, comma, data equals P call. That's a protected call in case something happens with this data store call. Any asynchronous call, which is what we're going to do, you should wrap into a P call. You don't need to. It's just for safety and good for error handling. What we're going to do is do that P call, and then we are going to say return DS get async. We'll use the player's user ID as a key to the data store to get their data. Now let's go down here. This is where it's going to get tricky, right? We are going to check for the leaderboard because the leaderboard is being added in another script. It might not be ready yet, right? There might be a very split second where the leaderboard is not there. So we're going to say local leader, and then we'll say player. Let's do a wait for child, and that's going to wait for the leader stats right there, right? And then we're going to wait until it's there. Then when it is, we're going to have the leader stats. Now we need to take a look at whether our call was successful or not. Not whether they had data. First, let's check to see if the call was successful. So we'll say if success, then now we're going to check for data. There might not be data because they might be new. So if data, then, right? So we have two checks. So if there's data, let's do for, I'm going to do, how about name and value in data, and we don't know what data looks like yet, but we are going to because we're going to do it right down here in the save leader stats. But we're basically going to have a name of the stat and the value, right? So it might be like grass 17 or something like that. So if leader find first child, the data might not be in there. You might have added gold somewhere along the line, right? So we have to do a check to make sure the name exists. If it does, then we're going to say leader, we'll use the bracket notation, name dot value equals this value, right? So that's pretty good. It's pretty flexible. It's going to work on almost any leaderboard that you have, right? So where should we do our next check? So if there's no data, that's fine. Everything will initialize to 0 when we make our leader stats. Here, I'm concerned, right? Let's go ahead and fold this if right there. If it's not a success, let's go here. Oh, I hate when it expands like that, but it does get you where you need to go, right? We're going to have an else, right? So there's something wrong with our P call. Maybe you didn't enable API access. Maybe you lost internet connection. Let's go ahead and warn the person, right? We'll do a little warn message, right? But what we're really going to do is we're going to kick them because we don't want to overwrite their history if there was a failure in the call. It's better just to kick them than to destroy everything they've done for a long time. So let's say failed to load, how about data, and please rejoin or something like that, right? Please rejoin. That's our little warning. And then also right here, this information, the data right here, there'll be a warning message if this is false, right? So if the success was a false, we can actually put what it said it was, and that's really handy. So we'll just do a comma data. That's going to be our message. And then let's do a player kick on the server side. Kick him out because it's better to kick him out than to have them join with bad data and ruin their years of work. So data failed to load. It's going to bring up a little UI. Please rejoin. Please rejoin. Sweet. All right, that should do it. Now, I haven't saved anything yet. We got to do that. We got to do that next. Let's go to save leader stats right here. Maybe I'll just move up a line. There we go. So save leader stats is going to happen when players leave the game or our little periodic save loop right here. All right, so let's get a table for our data. I'm going to say local data, just make it open, close, curly brackets, initialize an empty table. And now we're going to need our leaderboard. So leader, you could do player and find first child would work probably. I think I'll do wait for child though. Wait for child. And then we have our leader stats. Whoops, leader stats. Nice. If leader, now we're going to assume if we don't have a leaderboard, we're going to have errors. You're just going to have to check. I think we should just check. Make sure that they have leaderboards. We're going to wait there. You're going to get an infinite yield error if they don't have the leader stats, right? So fix that. I'll do let's do an I and stat. So I is going to be a number, an integer, and we'll do in leader. We're going to get the children on the leaderboard. So we'll say get children, which are the values like stone and wood and what else do we have? Stone, wood, grass, right? All right. So they don't have to use in pairs anymore. It used to be for like I and V or I and stat in pairs, but we don't need that anymore. They updated that. So it's more like Python, right? So I'm going to check. I think I'm only interested in int values or number values. You could check for string value too, but just in case there's anything weird on our leader stats, let's only get the things that's storing stuff that we know it's going to store on a leaderboard, right? So I'm just doing a check there. If stat is a int value, and all of our stuff is int value, but we might want to start doing number values, right? Like a floating point, like 1.5 something. So I think I'm going to do not stats. If stat is how about number value, right? Just open this up a little bit in case we have to do more. And then we'll do then. I think that'll work. That looks good. And like I said, if you have a string value on there too, like some sort of categorical data, just put the stat is a and then have string value, whatever you have on your leaderboard. But people don't usually put the categorical data inside there. They usually have numbers. All right, looking good. Oh, and then we'll just get our data, right? We'll get the data. We'll get the stat name, right? And then there's a stat value associated with it, right? That's right off the leaderboard. Then after the for loop, not in the for loop, after the for loop, let's do another P call. Sometimes I don't do P calls for saves, right? Because if it fails to save and they're leaving the game, or it fails to save at some point, it'll probably get another shot, right? Or if you're leaving the game, you're not going to be able to do anything about it, really. Because you could put it in a loop or something. But that's why we have periodic saves. But let's go ahead. For completeness, I'm not going to capture anything in that P call on the way out. We'll just do set async DS, Datastore, set async. We're going to use the player user ID, and then we're going to send the data that we want to save off, right? And I think we're good. So this data is going to be all the leader stat data that we accumulated while we're playing. And then this data, we're going to get that out of our data store and put it back on our leaderboard right here. This should work. Let's give it a shot. All right, let's hit play. We got hope for no errors. Big money, big money, big money. Here we go. Boom. Oh, you know what? We should put a print statement in there to see it saving off. I think I'm going to do that. But let's try it. Let's hit off. Right? And then we'll hit the play. Look at that. And then for testing, you might want to do this. Let's go to our save here. Let's get rid of this. This is pretty big. Let's go down here to our save leader stats. And I think I might just put a print statement in there, maybe here, right? Print saving data for player.name, right? And then you can see it if it's saving off periodically. Remember, we had that loop that we spawned. 5 seconds. There it is. Saving data for Simtech Gamer 7. Looking good. Oh, and it did it again, right? All right, so now we have what? 2, 1, 2. Let's turn that off. Turn it back on. Now, interestingly enough, the data store is shared between Roblox Studio and Roblox Player. I'm going to pull this game up on Roblox Player and get in there, and you're going to see how that data is still there, right? Let's turn this off right here. Went to the Roblox website right here. I'm going to go under create, and there's my data store lesson. I still have this private. Let's go ahead and view on Roblox. I'm going to start it up. I'll pause the video though, because it could take a little while to get the player going. Just go ahead. Yep, Roblox is now loading. Get ready. All right, and we are in our game. Check that out. Stone 2, grass 1, wood 2. If we get some more, there we go. Now we have stone 3. I go ahead and leave the game. You get the idea, right? But if we go back to our Roblox studio, if I can find that, and hit the play, stone 3, right? So you are sharing the data store. If you want to clear your data store, right? Like let's say you messed something up or you want to just start over, go to your game manager. And then when you do your init, right? When you do your init, I think what we can do here, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go here. I'm going to get my DS set async, right? Control C. On my init, I'm not going to put it in a P call because this is just clearing it out, right? I'm going to set async to false. All right. And now I got to get that line out of there. I'm going to play it one time. It's going to clear out my data store. It's gone, right? Now, if I get something, I got one stone. I'm going to turn this off, go back to my game manager. Let me think. Maybe I might have to do that a lot because I might be developing. I'm going to go ahead and comment that line out. And now when I play it, now I have a new data store. That one stone is still there. If I wanted to wipe that out, I just set async to false for the player data. There you go. I think that will get you up and running. Let's go ahead and turn this off, and I will see you in the next video.